Welcome back to episode 207 of the Gun and Guns podcast. I'm your host, Troy.
And I'm your other host, Doug.
We use this podcast to talk about God, guns, and the responsible Christian gun owner's interest. On this week's show, we'll be discussing Are You Ready with Mike. And I'm going to butcher your name, Mike. Giaramita, maybe. I'm sorry. It's Kentucky. We don't know how to say anything Italian. So we're going to butcher it. I assume it's Italian. Bandwidth sponsor Farms Radio Network. I want to thank the Farms Radio Network for putting out our content for over 5 years now and keeping it out there for you guys to download at your convenience. Also,
Crossbreed holsters. If you're carrying a gun on your person, in your vehicle, or got one next to your bed, you should have it in a crossbreed. Check them out. Crossbreedholsters.com. Carry the cross.
Carry the cross. Hey, just another thing here. Just got in my Patriot patch of the month. We got the little bunny sticker on the tank and a bunny patch. I think my daughter has done claim this one, and she's like,
I bet.
And he's got some really cool. He like does his artwork now, like his sketch. He does like a freehand sketch, and then
That's pretty cool.
with a patch of the month club. So you guys, that's reversed, isn't it? Is it reversed to you?
No, that's right.
Okay, just reversed to me. But patriotpatch.co and sign up for the Patch of the Month Club. It is it's fun every month when it comes because the kids are all fighting over who gets to open it and see what's in it. They're excited when it shows up, and they're all begging to take the different ones and appeal to them. This week's guiding gun activities. Doug, what are you up to?
Let's see. On the God side, of course, been doing my devotionals every day. Church on Sunday, it was Easter Sunday, so we were at church especially early so my little granddaughter could go Easter egg hunting. And she cleaned up, man. They had more Easter eggs out there than you could think of. So she went out and filled her basket up, come back, and all the little kids had kind of got tired. And she dumped her basket in her sister's stroller, emptied her out, and went back in again and picked up a few more. So
Reload.
she did good. One of her eggs, she opened it up and had a $5 bill in it. They said there was some bonus eggs out there. So
Man, maybe some parents out there wrestling around the kids.
I was going to say, man, after she found that $5 bill, I started to go out there with her and start hunting.
Let's look for some more.
Yeah. What color was that egg, honey? But she did good. She had a good time. And church was good service. Gun side this week, been doing my everyday carry. I ain't been doing a whole lot on the gun side because I'm still working on the house trying to get that done. So I did buy some new power tools this week. So I don't know if that counts, but it was kind of like buying a gun. It was like a kid at Christmas when I was hooking everything up. So that was fun. But hey, I had a phone number that was kind of stalking me for the last 2 days. I mean, just ringing me off the hook. It wouldn't leave a message. And if I don't know the number and you don't leave a message, I don't answer the phone because it's usually a telemarketer spoofing a number or whatever.
Yep.
So it called me again. It called me like 4 times today, and then it called again before I was getting ready to leave work. I didn't answer it and didn't leave a message. And then, just a couple minutes, man, my desk phone started ringing, and it was the same number. And I looked and it said Warner Robins Police Department. I was like, oh no, what has happened? So I answered the phone. The guy starts talking to me. He says, "This is Mr. McDowell." I'm like, "Yep, it's me." And about every year they call me because I had a gun stolen from me several years ago out of my truck. And they call every year and let me know that they still have the case open. I thought that's what it was. He's like, "Yeah, Mr. McDowell, this is Sergeant Rourke," I think was his name, Warner Robins Police Department. I said, "Well, what can I do for you?" He said, "Oh, you had a break-in in a vehicle back in 2010, correct?" I was like, "That's correct." He said, "You lost a handgun." I was like, "That's correct." He said, "Well, we recovered your gun." I was like, "Really?" 8 years later. I was like, "No kidding." I said, "Well, can I come down and pick it up?" He said, "No, we got to get it back first." I was like, "Where is it?" He said, "They recovered it in Miami, Florida." I was like, Hmm. That gun's probably been around the world and back. They don't tell how
Mm,
many how many hands it's changed. In 8 years. I asked him. I said, what kind of details you got, man? I said, how they get it back. He said, I don't know. He said, I don't have the details yet. He said they just informed us that they had the gun, and he said I'll be touching base with them this afternoon or first thing in the morning, and paying to have it shipped back up here to us. We'll have it back to you here in about a week or so, hopefully. I was like, sweet.
that's cool.
Got me a new Glock 23. Well, not a new one, it's mine, but
Get it back.
I get it back. That's the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah, I would not like having anything. I've gotten lots of things stolen, but it wasn't my presence.
Yeah.
It's usually around the farm. I've lost a lot of things that have disappeared. But that's what happens when you're not able to be here all the time.
Hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool that I actually got a gun back that got taken from me. That was my very first G Lock I'd ever bought.
It might be a Duracoat when you get it back.
Well, it probably will. I'll probably have to Duracoat it or, you uh, dip it or do something to
Powder
it
coated
because
or something.
he said I can't guarantee you what shape it's going to be in. He said I can tell you though that it does have the serial number, so they didn't file the serial numbers off of it because it still had that on there.
Well, cool.
And I was like, sweet. Actually, on the Glock, and the serial number in the plastic.
Yeah, and the lower, then it's on the upper too. It's on the slide, and then
Yeah,
some of them
it's,
are on the barrel. I think too. I
it's,
think they have like
it is on the
matching.
barrel.
Yeah,
It's on the barrel and it's on the slide and it's got a tag on the bottom.
little silver tag on the bottom of the where the accoutrements are attached.
Hmm. So
Cool.
hey, I get my. Of course, I don't have any 40 cal ammo anymore.
Get you a 9 millimeter conversion barrel for it.
I could.
Rock on.
I could get me a sword
No.
slide.
Yeah, you could. You get a new slide for it.
Never know.
You never know. All right.
But hey, at least it's coming home anyway.
Good deal. It's good to get your guns back.
It is. I just want to hear the story of how it got to Miami.
Yeah. I want the guy's number. I want to talk to him.
I know. Is he in jail? Can I talk to him now?
So that's got your stuff for the week.
That's me. That's me. What about you?
Served in security on Sunday at Easter Sunday. It was my day of the month, so I've got several of those. But so I was not in Easter service, but we had a huge crowd, and it was nice to see all those people there. And I got to actually roam around and do patrols, so I got to see people, but not the service itself. And we had a lot of guys that volunteered to be in the service with their microphones and watching the doors and stuff. So it's good. We got a good team growing. We could probably use another 4 or 5 guys, and I'd like to train somebody to take my job and then just serve at will. But that might be a wall down the road yet. Um, but we didn't have any church Wednesday night, so wasn't we didn't have to go anywhere. So I spent time with the kids and the wife at the house. Reading the Bible through in a year, back on that schedule again. I've been talking to some of our renters who've got some rental properties. My parents have got some rental properties, and so there's always excuses why they can't come up with a rent and stuff like that. So it's given me an opportunity to talk to them and talk about family issues with them and about their faith and about some of them have lost family members recently and just so I listened, yeah, and that gave me opportunity to share Jesus with them and talk to them about Dave Ramsey and how to get their finances straightened out, like I did back in the '90s. And so it was just it's been God's given me opportunities to speak to people in situations where you could get mad because sometimes they are late on their rent or whatever, but uh, I mean, I know young couples are always struggling. It's hard to make your bills and stuff when everything's going up like it is. I mean, our food cost is like through the roof. I'm like, we got to we're going to grow a garden or something. Or kids are
Hmm.
going to quit eating one or the other, or I'm going to quit eating. And so it gave me opportunity. I just took that opportunity to be able to share Jesus, to share spiritual wisdom, what the Bible has to say about, uh, you know, taking care of your responsibilities and dealing with loss and dealing with depression and things that go along with just struggling, not having much money. I can remember when Chris and I were first married, there's lots of weeks like we're praying for God to provide the next amount of money to make it keep us from writing cold checks and stuff. So
Hmm.
I remember those days, and so I said, just hang in there, stick in there, and tough it out, and start, get you a budget. I said you're gonna have to get a budget because if you don't, you're gonna blow what you think you have, but you don't really. And talk to him a lot about that, and so it was a good opportunity. So if you have opportunity to talk to people that you think is not really a good time, you know, share what God's done for you. Share your testimony. Share how He's brought you through things. Share how He has improved your life, um, and how you see Him at work in your life. And that goes a long ways, guys. They're needing answers, and they're needing good spiritual advice. So don't just ignore people and don't turn them off. Use an opportunity God's put you in to be a witness. Let's see. That's pretty much the God stuff for this week. Excuse me. Been, of course, daily carry on the gun side. Um, I've started carrying 2 extra magazines. I picked up this double Galco mag at the Bulwarks class because I needed a double nine. I had double 45s because I usually don't carry 2 spare mags, but I needed a double nine mag, and I have one somewhere in a tote somewhere. It's a crossbreed. I don't know where it went to, but I don't know. I couldn't find it before the class. So I bought one when I was down there at the school uh, where they had the class at, which is a gun dealership. And I've been carrying 2 mags since I got back because I really like it. It's comfortable, and so now I'm carrying about 50 rounds of ammo on me in various magazines and spare backup guns and all that stuff. So still studying to take the extra class this Saturday. I'm not as confident as I was when I went to take the technical and ended up taking the general. Really wasn't prepared for that, but I went ahead and took it and passed it. But the extra class ham license is this Saturday, and it's calling for 3 to 6 inches of snow. So
Really?
in Elizabethtown and here too. So I don't know if we're ever going to get a winter here in Kentucky. Shot a groundhog this week. It was
I saw that.
bringing back some old times. I hadn't seen groundhogs on our farm forever. I mean, it's been since I left for college because I killed every one of them here before I left, and then the coyotes came in. It was '84. The Ohio River froze over, and the coyotes came over from on the other side of the Ohio River into Kentucky and started cleaning up anything that was around: cats, dogs, and cow and groundhogs and rabbits. And they've sort of got an equilibrium now. They're sort of keeping pace with each other, but the I I was looking out the door, sitting there talking to my wife, and I saw a groundhog come out from underneath of our garden shed, and I was like, "Are you serious?" I thought first that was a beaver because I haven't seen any groundhogs. And I sat there and looked at it, and he turned, and no, it's a groundhog. And so I said, "Hey kids, come look!" And because they hadn't seen a groundhog up close, and so they came and looked. And I said, "All right, I'm gonna go get him." Well, said, you can't shoot him after you showed him to the kids. It's like, well, sure I can. It's a varmint. And she's like, well, they'll be all heartbroken. I said, it's a big rat. You
Yeah.
don't want that thing underneath the foundation of your shed. The whole shed will fall in. They'll dig out the whole underneath of the shed, and the whole shed will fall in. And she's like, well, just don't do it from. So I went down here and grabbed my old 1022 and put a mag in it, dropped it around, walked out the back porch, and you know, closed the door real slow, stepped out on the back porch. He's about 50 yards away. That's lined up by him. He took off running. He heard something or saw a shadow. They're blind as a bat. So he moved and took off towards his hole and stopped. And he stood up and just sat there. I was like, well, that's your bad mistake.
Bad move for you, boy.
Lined up on his head and popped him. He just dropped out, just fell over sideways and twitched a couple times. That was it. So, and wife said, "You come out the door. You shot that." Audrey's going to cry. I said, "She can get over it. We live on a farm. She's going to be a farm girl. She's going to get used to shooting alarms."
She got to get over it.
And she goes, "I can't even look at you." I said, "You're looking at me right now." I said, "Come on here. I'll show you where I shot him." She goes, "No." Said,
Let's go see where the hole's at.
Where do you think them cows are going to go? They're going to be on your plate. She's like, stuck her lip out. I'm like, 12-year-old girls, what are you going to do with them?
We killed some groundhogs when we were younger, and they were young little groundhogs, and Dad made us dress them, and we cooked them, and man, they was good.
Yeah. I didn't cook this one. My wife would have probably divorced me if I'd groundhog. I remember Fred cooking one in a crock pot.
Crock pots.
There was fat flowing all over the countertops. It just boiled over and stuff. I said, "You're just nasty." His mom was in the kitchen shaking her head, "Clean up that mess."
But was it good?
I did not eat it. There was enough fat. There was enough fat on it that you could have greased every iron skillet in all of Kentucky. But the fat comes off. You put one in a crock pot. The fat just bubbles to the top. He was in there spooning off the fat. I was like, That's how I on that one. Boiled groundhog.
That's too funny.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, he said, how you prepare your groundhogs here? I said, I hang them up and let the sun dry them out.
Make groundhog jerky out of them.
Make sun jerky, like the pig, like the ducks, where you hang them up and let them rot.
Did you hang him on the fence?
Yeah. Well, we don't have fences left. That's what I'm working on is fences. That's what, like the next thing on my where I'm working on. Been working on trying to get fences up and working in the barn and barns today. Clean the barns out, clean out the barn lot. And the kids out there working and sweating and complaining and picking up all the junk that those renters threw in the barn. And they made a big mess. So I had a bobcat in there getting all the big junk out. A bunch of old hay. Somebody threw down a bunch of hay out of the barn, and it just all was a big rotten mess. So I was cleaning all that out, and the raccoons got in there and left all their little presents for us. And man, it was filthy. So we got the 2 bays cleaned out. I'm not going to use the other side of the barn for a few calves is what we're going to have. But was working on that and met with the guy that does our grain and showed him where I was wanting to put fences and gates, where he needed gates at to get to some of the fields. So got all that laid out. We got 3 miles of fence to put up. So that's going to be fun.
I need a fence right there where that groundhog's laying.
I took him over the backside of the farm so the dogs wouldn't get into him, and I hung him up on a limb where he would be too high for the coyotes. Then we'll go back and sit up wait for the coyotes to come over and sniff
him. High enough he'll be seen by the other groundhogs as a warning.
Let be known. Him on a pike, sticking outside the road. No, I've never eaten a groundhog. I guess if you prepare them and put enough barbecue sauce on, it probably all right.
We fried them ones we had, but like I said, they were younger ones, so
yeah,
it was like
this one was probably about a 10-pounder. He was pretty good size.
It was like veal hog.
Yeah, so I've been working on the farm and fencing, and got some calves lined up to purchase. They're God's got them. Just go hold them for me until I get my fencing up. So we got that going on. So that's pretty much what I've been doing this week. I enjoyed shooting a groundhog. I'd like to find some more. I need to shoot some coyotes. I just bought a collar and a mojo varmint, whatever the thing is. It looks like a rabbit tail or something flips
Mm-hmm.
around. I just bought those from a friend of mine, so I might try to do a little bit of that varmint hunting next week because I
Oh,
haven't
you
been seeing them without. I've been calling them with a little speaker I've got, but I guess they've heard all those love songs, so they haven't showed up again. EDC check. I've got the Glock 19, the usual suspect. All the details are in the show notes. I'm not going to bug you guys with it. And the 26 is my backup. And I've started carrying another tourniquet now. Started carrying the. I moved it over here this other pocket. I'm wearing some BDUs today, so started carrying the soft tactical soft T, and it's in the package because I don't have it in a carry bag or anything, so I didn't want to get scratched up. I just got it and threw it in my cargo pants. I like those better. When I took the class, I liked the soft tees, the way they cut off my circulation better, so I went to a soft tee instead of the Cat 5 or Cat 7, where the current version is. So what you got?
Oh, I'm toting my Glock 19 Gen 4 and don't have it in the crossbreed holster tonight, but I was out running around and had it in just a regular paddle holster tonight, and uh, got my Hornady Critical Duty in it. Man, I was looking at it. The more you carry, um, it it don't take long to show slide or show wear on that joker from carrying it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Mine's pretty well worn. Even my the Trijicon sight's got finished war off of it. But
Does it?
yeah, but all the corners all rubbed shiny.
Yeah, that's what mine's starting to do too. It's wearing the coating off of it.
Yep. Hey, it's all right. It's a tool.
It is a tool.
See a hammer laying around looks brand new. You know they're not a carpenter.
Probably never even drove a nail.
No, it's too pretty to use. A safe queen hammer. All right, so comedy corner. I've got a few I found here and there.
Yeah, you did.
Let's see. I'll take the first one here. Short season. On the first day of deer hunting season, a hunter fell out of a deer stand, and broke both of his legs. He was saying to the doctor, he said, "Why does this have to happen on why couldn't this happen on my last day of hunting?" The doctor cried. The hunter cried to the doctor, "Man, butchered that one up." The doctor said, "It did."
Yeah, you're not going to be going back out the rest of this season. Let's see. Thanks, Pastor. A deer hunter asked a pastor if it was a sin to hunt on a Sunday. From what I hear about your aim, said the pastor, it's a sin for you to hunt anytime. I got friends like that.
Yeah, you need to take this next one because this one's right up your alley.
All right.
Doctors and duck hunting.
Doctors and duck hunting. And I actually had some doctors hunt with me this year, so it's pretty good. 5 doctors went duck shooting, I'm going to say duck hunting one day. Included in the group were a general practitioner, a pediatrician, a psychiatrist, a surgeon, and a pathologist. Soon a bird came winging overhead. The first to react was the general practitioner, who raised his shotgun, but then hesitated. I'm not quite sure it's a duck, he said. I think I'll have to get a second opinion from a specialist. By that time, the bird was long gone. Another bird peered in the sky. This time, the pediatrician drew a bead on him. He, too, however, was unsure if it was really a duck in his sights. Besides, it might have babies. I'll have to do some investigation, he muttered, as the creature made good on its escape. Next to spy a flying bird was a sharp-eyed psychiatrist. Shotgun shouldered, he was more certain of his intended prey's identity. Now I know it's a duck, but does it know it's a duck? And the fortunate bird disappeared while the fellow was wrestling with the dilemma. Finally, the fourth foul sped past, and this time the surgeon's weapon pointed upward. Boom! The surgeon lowered his smoking gun and turned nonchalantly to the pathologist beside him. Hey, go out there. Was that a duck? Hey, go see if that was a duck, will you? I'll shoot him. You tag him.
You just gonna get a second opinion after the fact.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on upstairs. It sounds like my dogs are attacking something. The rest of them in here, so if you're gunfire in a minute, I've got busy. While you're reading this feedback, I'm gonna run upstairs and see what is going on.
All right. We have
Mike might be joining us before I get back to.
Okay. So we have a little feedback tonight from our buddy Bill Donovan. He said, "Hey guys, I know that you avoid politics whenever possible. Not necessarily, but okay. But thought this was interesting. I got a call from a lady that stated she was calling for a survey and would I answer 3 or 4 questions with a yes or no. I told her I would. First question was, do you approve of Donald Trump's performance as a president so far? I answered yes. The woman hung up on me and didn't ask another question. Keep up the good work. I enjoy the live feeds when I remember to tune in and tune into them, but always listen to the podcast." And that's from our buddy Bill Donovan. And I think that was the last one that we had today. We had something else, but I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. So, if you want to get in touch with me or Troy and give us some feedback, please do. You can hit us up. You can hit me at Doug@GodAndGunsPodcast.com, and you can hit Troy at Troy@GodAndGunsPodcast.com. And we're pretty good about answering emails, and we love to read them on the show. So please, by all means, hit us up and let us know what you think. How do you guys like the live feed? Let me see. Go over and see if anybody's actually on. Hey, we got some guys on. Doug Schultz is on. Hey, Doug, how you doing? And Troy answered him. We got a few other people on watching too, but they're not chatting quite just yet. But hey, I don't know if any of you guys have ever had a gun stolen. If you're just tuning in, I don't know if people heard or not, but had the police department contact me today to let me know that they had retrieved a gun for me that was stolen from my vehicle over 8 years ago. And so I got that thing back. So if you have a similar story to that, if you've ever had a gun brought back to you that somebody stole from you and the police found it, let me know, because it's almost unheard of. Did the dogs tear up anything?
Let them go after it, whatever it was.
Oh, they were trying to get outside to go?
I don't know what. They just came in, so right before the show, I just brought them in, and they were tearing up the front door trying to get outside. So whatever is out there, they're after it. Let's see.
Gotta go get it now, ain't they?
Yep. Now I'm out of breath. I was trying to run up and down a bunch of steps. All right, so the Bible verse this week. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. Excuse me. Still trying to catch my breath. The prayer of the righteous person has great power and is working, and the prayer of faith will save the one who is sick, and the Lord will raise him up. And if he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. If is anyone among you sick, let him call on the elders of the church and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing praise. And that comes from James 5, verses 13 through 16. I apologize. I've got everything flowing now that I went for a little jog. So James here is telling us that the prayers of righteous person. So righteous means always the pastors I've always heard is that righteous means that you're right with God, that you've confessed sin, that you are living biblically as you're called to do, that you're trying to examine yourself daily, confessing your sin, recognizing your relationship with God, and that He isn't your servant, but you're His. And that um, when you do that, when you have that relationship, God listens to your prayers and God will answer your prayers. So, um, my grandfather was a person I always thought of as a prayer warrior. He prayed about everything. He didn't act on anything first. If there was an issue, he never acted on it unless it was like putting out a fire. I mean, as long as there was an issue that required a decision, he would sit down and we would pray about it. He said, "We're going to sit down and pray about it first." And then he would give me spiritual advice, biblical, godly advice. And I always wanted to be like that. I always wanted to be like him, and that I would not act first, but I would wait to see what God wanted me to do, and I would make sure that I was in right relationship, so that my prayers would be answered, and then I would have good wisdom to give whenever I was asked for it. So, so if you, I'm still struggling here. So, we want to remember that as a believer, we were bought for a price. We were bought out of our bondage and sin for a price, and that we are no longer our own, but we belong to Jesus, and that we need to ask what He wants us to do before we act on things. We need to ask Him what is the most wise thing to do, and wait for His answer, and stay plugged in the Scripture so that He can answer us through Scripture, because everything is answered in Scripture. Everything is revealed in Scripture. God reveals Himself through Scripture. So you got to pray, and you also need to be reading the Bible so that He can give you His wisdom. He can open your eyes to what He has already said when the time is right, when you need it. And so we need to recognize that our healing doesn't come from the church, it doesn't come from the people of the church. Our healing and our needs are met by Jesus. No matter where we're at as a believer, no matter how sick we might be, no matter how big of a need we have, no matter how much trouble we're in, Jesus is going to be the one that's going to answer that. We can't trust in finances. We can't trust in our government. Can't trust in our president. We can't trust in our guns. We trust in Jesus first and foremost. And if you don't have a personal relationship, if you're not confessing sin daily, then you're not going to be powerful in prayer. You have to let let God be first, and you be second, and you have to be obedient to His commands, which are in the Bible. So you have to read the Bible in order to be a faithful, righteous person, to be able to have a strong prayer life, to be able to help and pray in time of need for the country like we're in right now, or if you're just dealing with situations yourself. So that was the Bible verses, James 5 verses 13 through 16. And Mike is on the line. I can see Mike.
I can see him too.
You there, Mike?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good deal. Thanks for having me, Troy.
Hey, we're glad to have you. Mike he's been a listener of the show for a while, and then I guess you reached out to me. It's been about 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, and so I got to meet you up at Pennsylvania at the Great American, my daughter Daphne got to meet you, and so we've been every once in a while texting back and forth, talking about we need to get you on the show. It's been going on for about over a year now.
Sure.
But so Mike is an attorney, and you practice in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and where else? New York?
Pennsylvania, New Jersey.
Okay, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. And he's got he goes and does a lot of speeches and a lot of promotion of a company called U.S. Law Shield, right?
Yeah, I do seminars with U.S. Law Shield where I'll educate the folks about the laws of deadly force, the laws of concealed carry and interstate travel, search and seizure, things of that nature, and stuff that's important for gun owners to know so they don't end up on the wrong side of the legal system.
Right. Now, you're friends with what, Evan Nappen and all that? Is that
Sure am. Yeah. So they call me Evan Nappen Jr. sometimes. He's a
Yeah.
mentor of mine. I've had the pleasure of getting to know him real well. He's also a cigar guy, by the way.
Yeah. I saw him at SHOT Show this year, and he was walking out to light a cigar.
That's very typical of Evan.
Evan's a friend of mine, and Anthony Calandro is a buddy of mine as well.
Anthony, another great guy. Small circle in the Second Amendment community.
It is. They just had a big rally at the Capitol up in New Jersey last week, I think it was, and they had a lot of big guys up there doing Pro 2A stuff. So it was
probably there too.
It's very difficult in New Jersey, particularly now that they've got a governor who is extremely anti-gun, and it was horrible enough as it was with Christie in office, and it's only getting worse. They've got about 40 proposed gun laws, and this guy says he's going to sign every single one of them in.
Jeez.
And you talked about a couple of weeks ago having dumb law of the day.
Yeah.
You remember you talked about that? I mean, we could have one from New Jersey just about every single day. I mean, we could get started on something as simple as having a hollow point round rolling around in your back seat. No gun, no intention to harm anybody will get you 18 months in prison in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
We had we had a guy who had a keychain because the law says hollow point bullet. It actually says hollow nose or dum-dum bullet. So you could tell that whoever wrote the law had no experience because, we don't call them hollow nose or dum-dums or anything of that nature. But the guy actually had a keychain, and because the head was a hollow point, it's technically a hollow point bullet, even though it wasn't a live round, and the guy was indicted. Happens all the time.
Wow. That's the sad part about the New England area, that it's such a rich history of American Revolution and American Constitution, everything being done there, and all the people who stood up against tyranny, and their great grandchildren are okay with this stuff, going right back into tyranny. It just drives me crazy.
Sure. And that's why it's important that we've got guys like Calandro and like Evan Nappen out there who are based out of New Jersey to help keep the fight alive. I'm based in Pennsylvania. I happen to be licensed to practice in Pennsylvania and Jersey. And Jersey's in need at this point in time. Another dumb law. Evan always talks about this at his seminars. It's actually a felony to possess a slingshot in New Jersey. Okay. Yeah, I think I texted Troy about that. He was talking about that. They're down to slingshots in California. It's actually a felony. And the way that happened was the slung shots used to be illegal. And I don't know if you know what a slung shot is. It's like a monkey's fist. And they recodified the crimes code in Jersey several decades ago. But when they were recodifying it, they figured it was a typo. They saw a slingshot. They say, oh, they must have meant slingshot. So they changed it to slingshot. And with a stroke of the pen, a Scrivener's error, you've got, a possession of a slingshot like Bart Simpson and Dennis the Menace becoming felonious activity.
I was talking to somebody the other day at work. They were going to go to the range after work and had their gun in the car. And I hate to do it, but I always use New Jersey as a reference for stupid gun laws. And I said, if you were in New Jersey right now, I said, you'd be a felon. They're like, what do you mean? I said, because you're going to the gun range. He goes, well, nothing wrong with that. I said, no. And there's not in New Jersey either. But you cannot go from your house to the gun range and make any stops, any deviations. You can't stop for gas. You can't stop to get a Mountain Dew or anything else on the way. You got to go to your house, from your house to the gun range, and back home.
And you know what's incredible is the way they've written the laws over there. It's upside down. It's you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent, because they start off with the broad premise that possession of a firearm is illegal unless, and then they give you all the exemptions. And so all they have to prove is that you possessed a firearm, but the burden turns to you to show that you qualify under one of the exemptions. So even if you're doing everything right, you could end up in a whole lot of trouble in New Jersey.
Wow.
In Pennsylvania, believe it or not, I primarily practice out here. I've got 3 offices in Pennsylvania. And if you don't have a license to carry firearms, possession of a handgun in the vehicle is just about as stringent as New Jersey, unfortunately. Now, fortunately for us out here in Pennsylvania, it's fairly simple to get a license to carry firearms if you're a law-abiding citizen. There's actually no training and education requirement like they do in many states. When I lived out in Oklahoma, we had to take a course. We had to do a shooting qualification. Is it that way in Kentucky as well?
Yeah, we have a 8-hour course you take, and
you teach those, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that in Pennsylvania. So you fill out your paperwork, and unless they've got a reason to deny you, the sheriff's got to issue it. They've got 45 days to make that decision.
That's Georgia. It's the same way. You walk in with $72 and fill out your short applications about that big. It's got your name, your address, and all your information on it, and go get fingerprinted, come back over, and it's usually in the mail in 5 days.
Wow. Well, you could even leave the same day here in Pennsylvania, depending on their workload, and it's a lot cheaper than $70 over here. So, Doug, you might want to move out to Pennsylvania here pretty soon.
I don't know.
A questionable, was it governor that has been talking some crazy gun law stuff
down here?
Where?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, yeah. We do have a governor who's not the most friendly governor. Fortunately, no legislation has been passed. The only thing that's impacted our firearms in any way out here was recently he declared a state of emergency due to the opioid crisis. And there is a law in Pennsylvania where during a state of emergency, you can't carry a firearm on the public streets unless you're actively engaged in defending life or limb, or if you've got a license to carry firearms or fall under exemption. Now, in these situations, the reason it comes into play is, generally speaking, in Pennsylvania, no license is necessary to openly carry a handgun on foot. So as long as you're not prohibited from possessing under state or federal law, possession of a handgun, open carry on foot, perfectly legal with or without a license. Now, the minute you get into your vehicle or have it concealed, you need to have a license or fall under exemption. And in Philadelphia, there's an old law that you can't carry in any city of the first class unless you've got a license or fall under exemption. But outside of that, generally speaking, you can open carry on foot with or without a license. During the state of emergency, that's not the case. So that's the only way that he's really touched our gun laws in that sense.
Wow, that's not encouraging.
Yeah, it's not great. Practically speaking, it doesn't impact a whole lot of people, because I don't know a ton of people who rely on open carry without a license, particularly because it's so easy out here. And what I say is, if you're really concerned about that, go out and get your license. It's so easy. It's so inexpensive in Pennsylvania. It's worth having it, even if you don't think you're going to make a lifestyle out of it, like some of us.
So tell me, when you go to New Jersey, I mean, you got like shake down everything, right? You got to make sure no ammunition, no nothing. I mean,
oh my goodness, I've got a double, triple, quadruple check, and my wife's family still lives in New Jersey. They've got a beautiful farm, 29 acres up in North Jersey, and I'd love to be able to go shoot out there with them. It's just not possible. And every time we go out there, I'm out 4 o'clock in the morning with a flashlight, double and triple checking between the seats, making sure I don't have that hollow point round rolling around. It wouldn't look good. Gun lawyer, author, radio host gets busted for illegal firearm possession or hollow point round charge in New Jersey. When it comes to the firearms itself, they've actually got mandatory minimums that are devastating. So the example that I use, if I were to take the Springfield I carry on my hip every day in Pennsylvania, and I were to take it apart and unload it and take it apart to the point where it's inoperable, and put that in a box and lock up that box and put it in the trunk and drive up to my mother-in-law's farm, if I get caught, I'd be doing 3.5 years mandatory minimum in state prison with no opportunity for parole and no discretion by the judge. End of sentence. You're going to jail. Have a good 3.5 years.
That's like when Shania Allen's case was going on, when Evan was helping her out. She just made a wrong turn and wound up in New Jersey and tried to turn around and just happened to get pulled over. Didn't do anything wrong, and she even let the officer in New Jersey know that she had the gun, what she was trained to do in Pennsylvania, and boom. Man, you're in jail. Well, she spent like 45 days before she got out.
$90,000 in attorney's fees. She had a tough one. And she's a wonderful young lady. She's actually a U.S. Law Shield member herself. Fortunately, at this point in time, we've done a whole lot with her. But in her situation, she's a single mother, had been robbed twice in a short period of time, decided to go ahead and exercise her rights, got some training, and got her license to carry, purchased her firearm. And like you said, ends up across that imaginary line, thinks she's doing the right thing by volunteering that information to law enforcement, and they really made her pay. Is really a terrible thing.
Well, Maryland's not a whole lot better, is it? It's
No.
pretty
No,
crazy
you've got
thing.
all these red states. I call them red because if you look at a reciprocity map, right, you've got your green states that are okay, and your red states, those don't honor your license to carry. And in Pennsylvania, unfortunately, we're surrounded by what I call the Red Sea, right? You got all those communist states of Maryland, you got DC, you got Jersey, you got New York. And then if you go up further north, you've got some other unfriendly states in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. So it's unfortunate. Now, when I lived out in Oklahoma for 6 years, you've got
You're
all
golden.
kinds of green states. Yeah, you can go as far as you want in either direction. It's going to be quite some time before you run into a place where your license isn't honored. And that's beautiful. You know, that's what America is supposed to be all about. But unfortunately, it's incredibly important that we take the time to know and understand these laws in this part of the country, because you could end up in some serious trouble very quickly.
Do you even have a state that touches Pennsylvania that allows you reciprocity?
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
Oh, Ohio, yeah, okay.
That's
Yeah.
the way I went up, and I had to go up through Ohio. Instead of going through Maryland, I went up through Ohio, so I didn't cross through Maryland, because I've heard that if they see out-of-state vehicles, especially anything that looks pro-gun, they're likely to pull you over and bust you. Same thing.
That's 100% the truth. They'll sometimes sit on that line because it's very easy to end up in Maryland from Pennsylvania. I've done seminars very close to the border down there. And I remember one night punching into my GPS to get home. And I guess it was taking me a route through Maryland. I had no idea. I pulled up and I saw this sign, "Welcome to Maryland." I about crashed my car off the road because they'll sit there. They'll wait for those Pennsylvania plates. They know that 1 in 10 Pennsylvanians is carrying, and we've got over 1 million people with a license to carry in Pennsylvania. We're 4th in the nation by volume and 2nd in the nation by percentage. So we've got a lot of people carrying out here, and they'll just sit there and they'll wait to trip people up, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were coming back, and I just hit what was I using? Waze. I hit Waze, and it said, "Oh, this route will save you like 4 hours or something." I'm like, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I got thinking, no, that's taking me through Maryland. Sure enough, it took me through Maryland twice. You go through Maryland, you come back out, and then you go back into Maryland. It's a weird how Maryland goes like a snake all the way up through there.
Yeah, they did that on purpose so they could try to trick you, Troy. You know that, right?
Yeah, Waze people must be anti-gun.
Yeah, well, that's entirely possible. I think they're owned by Google these days.
Maybe, I don't know. I used to enjoy using it, but if they're gonna run me into the slave states, man.
Yeah, well, you could always use 926A, your federal protection under 18 USC 926A to get from one place where you're lawful to another place where you're lawful. The problem is that the courts out here have dubbed that an affirmative defense, meaning they could arrest you, they could charge you, and then it becomes your burden to raise that affirmative defense in court. Right. So after, tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and spending time in jail, guess what, Troy? You get to go home.
Yeah, you might be in right legally, but they're gonna take your gun. They're gonna make you pay for everything, and they're gonna make your life miserable.
And guys, that's something that I've seen happen more and more often in recent years. And the folks who are anti-gun, they're very good. They're almost like magicians, where they have you paying attention to one thing and they're doing an entirely different thing. They use illusions. And what we've seen is while people are paying attention to the top, they're paying attention to the presidential election, they're paying attention to the federal government, at a very, very local level. We've seen aggressive enforcement against folks who own firearms. And these are people who want to lawfully own firearms, people who only want to protect themselves and protect their loved ones, much like, the listeners of God and Guns. But anytime there's a gun involved in any incident, you better believe they're throwing the book at them, whether it's right or wrong. So this is something we've seen becoming increasingly true over the last few years, at least in my experience here.
I tell you haven't seen a whole lot on the news here in the last few days, though. The liberals out in California, they haven't been talking about their gun laws when YouTube got shot up the other day.
Sure, because there's nothing to say. Unfortunately, they're extremely stringent over there. And it's like when they had the case over in New Jersey, I think it was out by Princeton, or even in Maryland, where you had that school shooting. By
Mhm.
the way, one thing that I've noticed, and not trying to spin this anyway, but uh, I mentioned the name Blaine Gaskill when I talk to people over these last few weeks. And I've met one guy out of hundreds, because I do these seminars, one guy out of hundreds who knew that name. And that's the name of the armed resource officer who confronted that shooter at the Maryland school during that shooting and ultimately ended the confrontation. Now, they can say that the guy shot himself or the shooter shot himself all they want, but the bottom line is it just so happened to take place when that armed resourcer engaged him.
Mhm.
So, this is a guy who's a hero, and
Yeah.
you're not hearing about him. Nobody knows his
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the case. I mean, the guy down in Texas that shot, nobody reported on that. I mean, other than just a few conservative sites about who he was and what his background was and all that that
Mhm.
stopped that church here. Well, after he pretty much finished his job, but he still stopped him from going somewhere else and doing something else. But so U.S. Law Shield, tell us about your practice first and what you do in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania, and then tell us about your role in U.S. Law Shield and how people can become more prepared. Because I mean, you can go and get your concealed carry license. In Kentucky, it's more stringent, of course, than Georgia and Pennsylvania. But you can go get your license. You can buy a good holster. You can have all the tactical gear. You can go get training, and you can have your medical kit, your IFAC, and you can go get training for your medical tactical training, and you can get gun like I went to and did a unarmed close quarters combat, wrestling, fighting, whole weapon retention, all that. You can
Yeah.
do all those things, and then if you drive into Maryland, boom.
Right.
You're not prepared to have someone to come and help you get out of that situation. And for most people, they don't have $10,000 sitting around for a retainer just to get started, or wherever
That's what I was going to say, Troy. Geez, you selling me short over here at 10 grand.
50 grand for a retainer, whatever your retainer is. I know that I have had U.S. concealed carry, and I had heard a lot of bad things about him over the years, and I was paying a tremendous amount of money. And then I had switched, and I've I've, I've been thinking about just getting like all of them, because as much as I travel, I'm going to end up probably getting myself in somewhere. I'm going to need lawyers from everywhere to come help me. But tell us about you, and tell us about U.S. Law Shield and your relationship there with that as well.
Sure. So Troy knows I've got sort of an unconventional background when it comes to firearms. I unfortunately wasn't raised in a place where firearms were prevalent and wasn't raised around other gun owners because I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And I always tell folks that what I do with my practice today is I protect law-abiding gun owners, but there was no such thing as a law-abiding gun owner in Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, the only folks who had firearms because of their laws were the NYPD, the police, and unfortunately the criminals. Now, fast forward a few years, I was offered a scholarship to play college baseball out in Oklahoma. And when I got out to Oklahoma, you better believe I quickly realized that we were not in Brooklyn anymore. Whole different ball game out there. Heavy presence of civilian firearm ownership, a lot of law-abiding gun owners. I've got an uncle who lives up in Kansas, and I started shooting with him. I went up there on one Thanksgiving, and they have a tradition where after everybody eats their turkey, they all go out and shoot. And I was just about instantly hooked. So I stayed out there for law school. I attended the University of Tulsa College of Law, and I got more and more active and involved in the law-abiding gun-owning community. First thing I did was I joined the Tulsa Indoor Firearms Range, where I became a member of their academy. Then I went out to the world's largest gun show, which actually takes place in Tulsa. I don't know if you folks have had the pleasure of going on out to that one, but it's incredible. And purchased my first firearm and got my license to carry out there, which involved a whole lot and really became a lifestyle for me. And when I was finished with law school, I didn't want to move back to Brooklyn, although my family's still in New York, because I knew that crossing that imaginary line meant giving up my firearms. And I got used to being able to carry everywhere I could legally carry to protect myself and to protect my loved ones. And that's incredibly important to me. So I chose Pennsylvania specifically based on the ability to exercise my Second Amendment rights. I happened to also take the New Jersey bar because you could take them both within a 3-day span. And I think it's great that I did that because I think they really need me out there these days. But I chose Pennsylvania based upon the ability to exercise my rights. So then I decided that, I have a deep passion for this. This is what I love to do. So let me focus my practice of law in this area. And I was very fortunate early on in my career to represent U.S. Law Shield in a lawsuit against the city of Harrisburg for illegal gun ordinances. And we actually, and I'm very early in my practice at this point back then, and we won a preliminary injunction. We took down the city with that preliminary injunction. We did something that the NRA hadn't done at that point in time. And don't get me wrong, we're all on the same team and I support them when they sue, but it was an incredible experience. And that was the beginning of my career fighting to preserve and advance our Second Amendment. And I represent a lot of people in self-defense incidents. That's really what I love to do. Protect these people who got into a situation where they had to defend their own life or the life of a loved one, and now the legal system is trying to jam them up. And really, that's why U.S. Law Shield exists. And we see situations like this all the time. You'll hear about them on the news where a good guy has to defend himself or a loved one. I know me personally, I tell folks I carry for 2 reasons. Number one, carry to protect myself because my family needs me to make it home to them at the end of the day, just like you folks. And then number 2, I carry to protect the other members of my family. So we see people who do that, who have the unfortunate event of where they have to do that, and they get jammed up by the legal system. So what U.S. Law Shield is a firearms legal defense program. And for any of our members, if they're involved in an incident where they have to use their firearm or use really any type of force, because we cover all lawful self-defense, that our attorneys will come out, will represent you throughout any criminal or civil proceedings throughout the entire way, even through an appeal, for no attorney's fees. So we're with you from start to finish. There's no caps. There's no limits. It's not insurance where, you pay them and then we reimburse you. No, if you're a member, our attorneys, we come out, we represent you. You get to know us because as a member, you come to our seminars for free. You're over there shaking hands with your attorney and listening to their seminars, vetting them, asking them all kinds of questions. You could also call in to the non-emergency line for any legal questions you might have as a member. That's another perk that you get. So it's a program that I'm very proud to be a part of. It's something I'm finding is more and more necessary these days. In the 2 states that we operate around Pennsylvania, in Maryland and New Jersey, they actually also cover possessory offenses. So if you're in a situation where they do jam you up, making you prove that you fall under that exemption, then Evan and his team, and I'm actually a part of his team for the state of New Jersey, will come out and represent you throughout any civil or criminal proceedings. And when people hear about this, you know about the Sheeney Allen case where it cost, I think $90,000 was her attorney fee bill or something like that. People think the program must be expensive, but it's only $10.95 a month. And I think it's beautiful because it's incredibly affordable. And we've got over 300,000 members nationwide, and that's the reason that they could make it so affordable. So I've had the pleasure of meeting some great people out at seminars. I've done over 500 of them over the years, and it's really good to be able to speak with other law-abiding gun owners. And one of the ways that I think I started talking to Troy, if I recall correctly, I wrote a book on Pennsylvania's gun laws, and I had been talking about Jesus with one of the guys who bought my book. And so when I signed it, on the inside, I wrote, "Listen to God and Guns," and signed my name. And so I think he actually wrote into you guys and said, "Hey, I heard about you guys from this Mike guy out in Pennsylvania." And then Troy mentioned cigars, and I said, "I got to get to know this guy."
you need to start listening and watching all the time.
Yes, and well, hopefully he did. Hopefully he did, because I know that you guys talk about a lot of important stuff on this show. And, it's a pleasure to get to listen to you guys. Like, Doug, I've never spoken to you personally, but I feel like I know you real well, brother.
I know. We got friends in the same circle.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too.
I was sitting and smoked cigars with Anthony at NRA shows, and him and Evan came down to Atlanta 2 years ago. I guess it was 2 years ago now for the Blade show. You know, Evan's a
Yes,
big knife guy, so
sure is.
so it's fun getting to hang out with those guys.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Evan actually invited me to come join him on that one. A friend of mine did get to go with him. Unfortunately, I had court obligations and couldn't make it, but maybe one of these days I'll end up out there with you folks.
Hey, well, come on down this year. We'll have to get together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a good time.
So, just to tag on to what you were talking about. So, you guys that are in U.S. Law Shield, that's what your specialty is. I mean, you deal with that more than the average lawyer. I mean, you can call up lawyers if they aren't dealing with this on a regular basis like you guys are. They're not going to be up to speed on the best defense for you, right?
You better believe it. You know, there's an art to litigating a self-defense case, because what you're doing is you're convincing this group of people, the jury, who have been taught from the time that they're a little baby that it's wrong to kill another human being, right? We can all agree with that. And you've got to convince them that it's okay under certain circumstances, and my guy or my gal falls under those circumstances.
Right.
Now, some attorneys are excellent, like the O.J. Simpson team, at showing, hey, my guy didn't do it. Some other guy did it. But you've got a completely different animal with a self-defense case, because you're saying, well, my guy did it, but there's a legally recognized reason why. Right. And it really takes someone with that kind of experience and somebody who's well-versed in this type of law to do that. And one other thing that I see, unfortunately, happen all too often is you'll see criminal defense attorneys reach these plea agreements with the prosecutor and unwittingly have their client enter into a plea agreement that loses them their gun rights forever.
Right.
So we had a guy who hired this attorney, spent tens of thousands of dollars, ultimately ran out of money and had to plea. But his ultimate plea was to a misdemeanor of the first degree, terroristic threats. Now, you hear that, you say, oh, misdemeanor, that's not a big deal. But under federal law, if you're convicted of any misdemeanor that's punishable by greater than 2 years, meaning the max sentence the judge could have possibly given you, even if you didn't spend a day in jail, even if you got house arrest or probation, the max possible sentence was over 2 years as a misdemeanor or over 1 year as a felony, then you're prohibited from possessing firearms for life. Right. And this is a federal law. This isn't, you can move to a different state and everything's going to be fine. So we've seen some criminal defense attorneys, it's not a big deal to them, right? Gun rights aren't a big deal to them. So they don't even know or understand when their rights will be impacted. They figure, I kept this guy out of jail, I did my job.
So you guys are nationwide, and go ahead.
We've got certain core states right now. We're working on getting in all 50 states. So if you're a resident of one of our core states, then you can become a part of the program. And then if you're a member in one of those states, you can add what they call the multi-state coverage, because we do have attorneys in all 50 states. And if you have the multi-state coverage, God forbid something happens in any state, you'll be represented. We've got attorneys in all 50 states. Unfortunately, some states make it more difficult to begin operating than others. Like New Jersey, it took a very long time. Georgia, I believe it actually took a long time because of the way they viewed things and their regulations over there. But we're in Georgia, we're in Kentucky, we're in New Jersey. And you go to uslawshield.com, or you could also go to gunlawseminar.com and check out all the upcoming dates for our seminars. Come out and learn a little bit about the law.
Cool. So the other advantage I would think is that these DAs, these prosecutors, when they see you guys are the lawyers for this defendant, I would think they would probably be less likely to want to try to trick or push. I would think that they say, "Oh, these guys are wise. We're going to back off on this, and we're not going to waste their time." What do you get that kind of response?
And I don't want to brag or anything like that. but I had a detective call me a couple of weeks ago after we had that initial conversation. He calls me up. He called my client. My client said, "I'm sorry, I can't make any statements. You're going to have to speak with my attorney respectfully," which is absolutely the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be making statements and jousting with a police officer. You'll only incriminate yourself. But the detective called me, and he starts explaining to me the way the law works with these kinds of cases, mm-hmm. and not knowing that I've done thousands of these. And I just sort of sat back and I listened, mm-hmm. and briefly explained what I thought we should do. And then a couple of days later, I get a call back. Mr. Giaramita, this is Detective so-and-so. He said, yeah, how can I help you? We just spoke the other day. He said, oh, after we were done speaking, I really got a feeling you knew a whole lot about this. So I threw your name into Google and I had no idea that you wrote a book on this stuff. And, I actually ordered the book, and I would appreciate it if I could pick your brain on a few things regarding Pennsylvania's gun laws. And of course I said, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to talk guns with anybody. This is what I love to do. And ultimately, that case was resolved. So
yeah, I mean, it just makes sense that if you've got someone that has experienced it, been in the court before, defended people with this same kind of a charge, that you would know how best to resolve it quickly, and that the people on the other side of the room there are going to say, this guy knows his stuff, and he's well represented, and so we're not going to be able to make a whole lot out of this. So let's wrap this up quick.
Well, in fairness, they've got to know all kinds of laws, right? They've got to know drug laws. They've got to know the vehicle code. They've got to know Christmas tree laws and dog laws and all kinds of laws throughout their role as a district attorney. Whereas, was that?
Keychain laws.
Yeah, right. All these kinds of, they got a wide variety of laws they got to know. Whereas myself, I'm fortunate enough to practice in this field, and about 70% of what I do is strictly gun law. So this is something that I'm constantly doing. I've been doing it for a long time, and something that I'm fortunately able to focus on, whereas they don't have that luxury being in their position.
Cool. So, let's see. So if they want to find out if their state is in that group, where can they go to? Just US
Law? They go to uslawshield.com. You'll also be able to find out pretty quickly if you go to gunlawseminar.com, because when you click the drop-down menu, there are only so many states that are in there. And we've increased rapidly. I tell you, for operating since 2009 and have over 300,000 members, that shows that there are people out there who believe in our Second Amendment and understand the value in sticking together with this sort of thing. Because, I think it's no secret among your listeners that our Second Amendment is under attack today, and it is going down to the local level. And it's important that we're prepared not only to protect ourselves, but for the fight after the fight. And that's really where U.S. Law Shield comes in.
Cool. Yeah, so the multi-state. So if you got multi-state and it was that, so that covers you wherever you go, with the exception that you may not be the actual representative there. You would contact someone there and liaison with them. Is that how it works?
So what would happen is, for example, if I went down to Georgia to visit Doug, right?
The devil went down to Georgia, huh?
What's that?
The devil went down to Georgia.
The devil went down to Georgia. Always Italian guys always getting this stuff, right? That's what it is.
No, you got great testimony. I really enjoyed hearing your faith testimony.
Oh, I appreciate that. But let's say I went down to Georgia, and I unfortunately had to use deadly force to protect myself or to protect Doug, right? And I would immediately lawyer up and shut up. If the police showed up, I'd say, listen, I've been the victim of a crime. I want to cooperate with your investigation, but respectfully, I can't make any statements without my attorney. Now, as soon as I got to safety, hopefully prior to the police showing up, I'd be calling this red emergency line that they've got on the back of our card. Mm-hmm. And that is carried by an attorney 24/7, 365. And if I was in Georgia, it would go to the Georgia attorney, and I'd have the Georgia attorney on scene, and they'd come and represent me. Gotcha. So that's the way it would work in those situations. We got attorneys throughout all the United States, and they would come represent based on where you are.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. Well, what else have you got going on? I know you're a busy man. You're all the time going and doing and.
Yeah. So the most immediate thing I've got going on is in about 10 hours, I've got my live radio show on Fox News Philadelphia about the Constitution. I do that every Friday morning from 8 to 9, and that's been incredible. It's actually our main host is a pastor, and he unfortunately lives down in Maryland, so he's feeling the pain of those laws out there. It's great doing the Constitution show. I always seem to, unfortunately, not really unfortunately, but I always seem to tie guns into it somehow because it's my passion. And last week they gave me the opportunity to do one specifically on the Second Amendment. So that was a whole lot of fun. Let's talk about the Second Amendment.
Well, it seems like the Second Amendment is the only one in the Constitution that they're trying to take away from everybody. So
right. You don't see the the attorneys complaining about the first, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. It's just constantly the second they're going after. And one thing I said to the pastor one day is I feel like a lot of these attorneys treat the Constitution like a buffet, where they think they can take the parts they like and just ignore the stuff that they don't like. And we see this with religion as well, right? And I think people do the same thing with the Bible all the time. I think you folks would agree, as it's very convenient to take certain parts of the Bible that you agree with or that you feel are easier to follow than others and talk about those, but ignore the really hard parts. And so people take a similar approach sometimes, unfortunately. But the bottom line is, it's, you know, the Constitution is the law of the land, and the Bible is the word of God. So
that's just like the other day I was watching, there was a video on one of the news channels, and they were doing that march here with all the kids and stuff here recently. And they had this guy out there that looked like Elmer Fudd dressed up in a hunting suit, you know, and he's holding a sign up, hunters against, you know, AR-15s or whatever. And they did this interview. It was a propaganda thing. Anybody that knows anything knew that. But this guy, he's like, yeah, he said, I'm a hunter, an avid hunter, and I'm a Second Amendment person. I just don't believe there's any reason to hunt animals with an AR-15. I'm like, well, one, you're not a hunter because you don't understand. And two, you don't know anything about the Second Amendment because it ain't about hunting.
Right.
All right. That's something that drives me nuts with the Second Amendment when they talk about, well, you don't need this many. I think it was the New York governor a while back. Fortunately, I was out of there by that time. But nobody needs 10 bullets to kill a deer, right? Well, the Second Amendment isn't about killing deer. And the Pennsylvania Constitution, which predates the United States Constitution, our bear arms provision says the right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and defense of the state shall not be questioned. So we're talking specifically about defense of selves, defense of state, and these are the purposes under which our Second Amendment was formed. It has nothing to do with that. I think Ice-T, of all people, that rap artist, I don't know if you folks have seen that video, but he said it has nothing to do with hunting. It's to prevent tyranny. And historically, that's a fact. But if you went into the schools these days and tried to teach right out of history, right? If you took quotes from our founding fathers, I do a class on the history and purpose of the Second Amendment, where I literally just read quotes from the founding fathers and from the people having these discussions at that point in time. If I went into a public school and I read those quotes, I'd be run out of town. You better believe it. Because we're forced to believe that we should ignore this stuff, and that it's just simply not the case. They rewrite history.
Yeah, that's
you'd be arrested in a school for just saying the word gun.
That's true. Well, they had in New Jersey a couple of weeks ago. They had a couple of students who were suspended for having pictures of them with firearms. I don't know if they were target shooting or what. And they said this was off campus. This had nothing to do with school. They suspended the students for having those pictures posted on the internet.
Yeah.
Just because their parents taught them and educated them regarding firearms and firearm safety. It's ridiculous. It's out of control, taking the control out of the parents, right? We've seen that constantly these days, but taking a step further where just a photo that has nothing to do with school regarding firearms is getting somebody suspended. Now they threatened to file a lawsuit. Scott Bach out of Jersey, I don't know if you met him, good friend of Evans, was leading the charge with bringing a lawsuit, and I actually had a message out to him saying I'd offer my services pro bono to help with that one, because if something like that stands, then there's no stopping, there's no turning back for us. But they fortunately the school district dropped their position after we gave a little bit of pushback.
I have to say, though, they've already attacked the Fourth and the Fifth Amendments in the fact that they seize and search without really a search warrant on a lot of these things, especially these car stops.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are your rights? So if I'm driving through Maryland and they stop me, what gives them the right to go through my car and start looking for stuff?
Yeah, you'd have to have an exception to the warrant requirement, and there are a whole long list of those. And not only they fall under the Fourth Amendment, but they could also fall under the state constitutional provisions. So it could get pretty tricky. But your rule of thumb would be that you never consent to any searches. That's your your safety net. There is a lot of times, and I don't know if you folks watch Live PD. You ever see that show where they follow the cops around? It's pretty good, because I kind of look at it like game day film when I was playing baseball, watching hitters, and because I see what the police are doing, the tactics that they're using, and I'm dissecting it. But what they'll do often is if they don't have an exception to that warrant requirement and they don't have anything sufficient to get that warrant in the first place, they'll ask for consent, because once they've got consent, they don't need a warrant or they don't need an exception. And if somebody says, no, I don't want to consent, they say, well, you really seem like you must be guilty. And, if you don't let me in, I'm going to just go in anyway, which really legally they can't just go in anyway. But people hear that and they say, well, okay, I guess I don't mind if you go in then. And then they've got their consent and that's it. The police don't have to tell you, well, listen, sir, I've got nothing here. I really just want to fish around and see if there's something in there that you shouldn't have. And I've got no legal reason to do so. You don't have to let me, but I'd really appreciate if you would. If they laid it out like that, nobody would say yes. So they use these tactics to get in. But regardless of whether they have the exception or not, if you get on the record that you don't consent to any searches, then if that search was bad, we could get that evidence suppressed in court later on. So that's going to be, you could be respectful about it. Say, listen, officer, I know you're just trying to do your job, but with all due respect, I don't consent to any searches. By saying I don't consent to any searches, you're really taking the heat off of them. You're not saying, hey, I just don't like you. It's something personal. You're saying, this is a policy of mine. I don't consent to any searches. And people will too often think, oh, well, I'm a good person. I got nothing to hide. You don't know if your grandma left a pill in the front seat or if you got a hollow point round rolling around in the back seat in New Jersey, right? These are things that could very well happen. And our founding fathers did not write the Fourth Amendment just for the criminals. They wrote the Constitution for law-abiding folks like you and I. So why not exercise your rights?
I know your legal advice is very expensive, so I'm not going to get all of it free here. So, but I'm glad that you came on and opened people's eyes about the fact that, you need to be prepared should you have to use that gun. God forbid that something happens, you have to use that gun, even if it's just pulling it out, just that can get you in prison for brandishing.
Sure.
Or for, that's if you pull your gun out and point at someone in Kentucky, that's deadly force. Even if, don't shoot it, just the bring the gun into the conversation is deadly force. And so you could go to jail, or then you could be civilly sued as well. You could be sued for, by the perp that was trying to kill you or steal from your stuff for their family if you've ventilated them. So you've got multiple layers of legal issues. Not just there's criminal, then there's the civil on the back end of it. Do you help on the civil side as well?
We sure do. We represent you the whole way through any criminal or civil proceedings, including appeals, retrials, things of that nature. And the civil side comes into play all too often. It's really unfortunate because that guy might have been the most vile human being on the planet that you had to use deadly force and protect yourself against. But the fact is, there's somebody in the world who A, loves him, or B, wouldn't mind trying to make a nickel off of them. So we see a lot of these lawsuits take place after the fact. Fortunately, in Pennsylvania, we've got what's known as a civil immunity statute. So if you raise that defense properly, they cannot sue you and win if you were justified on the criminal side. New Jersey, unfortunately, has the exact opposite of a civil immunity statute. They actually have a specific law that says no matter what happens on the criminal side, even if you're justified, that does not take away the quote unquote victim's right to bring a lawsuit against you for your conduct. So it's really incredibly a shame over there. And sometimes I run into folks and they say, well, Mike, what are the odds? Do I really need to have this plan in place? What are the odds that I'm going to have to use my firearm to defend myself? Now, first of all, bad guys don't make appointments, right? Yeah. If we could predict to any degree of certainty as to when we were going to need to use our firearm, we wouldn't put ourselves in that situation in the first place. Wouldn't you folks agree? That's not the way it works. And if you truly believe that you will never be in that situation, if you think that there's never going to be a situation where I need to protect myself, then why even own a firearm in the first place, right? Right. It's like saying, I'm never going to have a fire. I'm going to throw away my fire extinguisher. No, you don't expect to have a fire. You don't expect to have to use deadly force to protect yourself or a loved one. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be prepared. God forbid that kind of thing happens.
Right. Hey, one of our listeners had a question that they wanted us to throw out there. He said, Mike, have you ever had to defend someone owning an, in quotes, assault weapon in a state or city that have banned them?
Unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately, I haven't. I'd love the opportunity to litigate these issues because that's how we get precedent as to whether or not they're constitutional and attack them on those kinds of grounds. But I haven't had a situation where there was a possessory offense for that type of weapon. Um, I've had people use modern sporting rifles in self-defense in Pennsylvania, and fortunately, out here, it's just about anything goes. Whether it's, a modern sporting rifle or even NFA items out here, and I've had people who have had to use those to protect themselves, but I've never had to deal with a specific possessory offense under those circumstances. I've had other possessory offenses in New Jersey that I helped Evan out with. But it wasn't exactly just because it was a quote unquote assault weapon. But these laws dealing with assault weapons in these states, they're draconian. I mean, you've got long lists of the types of guns that are too scary for you to lawfully own.
Yeah.
So you got to really be careful. It's incredibly apparent that the people who wrote these laws knew nothing about firearms, and they just picked and chose the ones that they thought looked ultra scary. So to the listener, I guess fortunately I haven't, but unfortunately I haven't been able to press these issues and try to get them taken off the books on those grounds.
So is the Heller, has that helped you in any way in through the courts, or you're still fighting state? You gotta fight your way through the state before you ever get to the federal, right? Because these are state charges you're dealing with most of the time, right?
Yeah, so if we're dealing with like a self-defense case, those are based on state laws. But if you're dealing with laws that you're alleging are unconstitutional on the civil side, many times those end up in the federal courts because there's a federal question, and the federal court will have jurisdiction. So you could end up litigating in the federal courts over that. The Supreme Court, unfortunately, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, has been very hesitant to hear cases that have implications on our Second Amendment. And they don't have to hear every single case. They get to pick and choose. Wouldn't that be a great job, guys? You get to choose what you want to do, and when you don't feel like hearing a case. But Justice Thomas and Gorsuch actually joined in the dissent. They wrote a scathing dissent a few months back, and they denied cert on a case. And Thomas said the Second Amendment is becoming the disfavored right, where we're hearing 100 some odd cases on the other amendments, and we've heard 2 on the Second Amendment. He said it's easy for us folks who sit here in these robes in marbled halls with armed security to avoid these situations, right? We punt on these issues. We don't deal with them. But for folks who are out there on the street, the regular guy like Troy, Doug, and myself, we don't have that luxury, and these cases impact our lives directly. So unfortunately, it was just a dissent, and it really didn't have any impact on the case or anything. But we've had a really tough time getting these milestones, these major cases to the Supreme Court lately.
Well, I mean, the Second Amendment is the teeth of the Constitution, and the teeth of the Bill of Rights, I should say. That without it, you know where they're going to go. I mean, they're going to take every other right and rewrite it the way they want to. Because what are you going to do? If you take the teeth out of the bear, there's nothing to be feared by those who would enslave you and enforce their will on you. So that's always going to be the spearhead. I mean, it's always it's a daily defense. It's a constant defense, and you never can take a break. A lot of people just like sighed of relief when Trump was elected, and I'm like, he was a liberal before he was elected. I don't know how sure this is. And then when you hear him negotiating and saying that some of the things he said that sort of backpedaled on his supposedly staunch defense of the Second Amendment, it lays just like what you said, Mike. It's at the local level. You've got to fight at every level. You've got to make noise about it. You got to tell them you're not for it. You got to make them pay at the election at the polling places. I mean, these elections come up here in May and stuff. They're extremely important that we try to stop the wave of enslavement that they want to try to force on us. I mean, if the House flips, you're going to see Trump not be able to get anything done. He's going to be just stalled altogether. Not that, I mean, he's doing some good things, but he's just not really moving forward because you got so many rhinos that are just sitting on their haunches and not doing anything. And it's just a constant onslaught. But Trump's approval ratings went up 5 last month. So
Yeah,
we'll
we
see.
got to be careful. We got to be careful in this country because, when was the last time our federal government permanently restricted the types of firearms we could own? 1986. Who was president in 1986?
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I bet they felt pretty safe back then, right?
Yeah.
And this is how these things get through. They catch people while they're sleeping, and people breathed this sigh of relief after the last presidential election. They said, our guns are safe. We got nothing to worry about. But I think the biggest mistake people can make is to think that the fight is over. You talked about the suppressors increasing the tax. Was Troy, you talked about that on a previous episode? They said they wanted to jack it up to something like $1,000.
500 to 1,000, or maybe even as much as 2,000. I've heard different numbers has been thrown around.
Okay, well, I thought that was interesting because in 1934, when the NFA was enacted, the $200 tax was actually cost prohibitive. So that's why they did it. I went back after I heard you say that, and I looked at the statistics as to what a regular Ford vehicle cost back then, and it was about $500. So think about it like that. You know, hot dogs cost a nickel, a Ford costs $500, a $200 tax on an NFA item, that's going to be cost prohibitive. What they did was they enacted that so that people wouldn't be able to practically own these things, and that's exactly what it seems like they're trying to do now.
Well, that's the way government works. If they can't ban it because it's against the Constitution, they're going to tax it to where it's prohibitive. I mean, that's the way they get around it. That's the way they take your liberty. They're going to tax it. They're going to tax your ability to have that right, and only the rich then can have it, right?
Because they're much more important than us folks, right?
The rich, and they always exempt the government employees. So your government bureaucrats and all that, they can have it, but you got to pay a really high tax for it, and that should be unconstitutional in the fact that you're choosing what economic level, socioeconomic level of a citizen has the right to own something.
Right.
That's what you're doing. I mean, you're attacking the poor pretty much.
We see that constantly. John Lott actually did a study with concealed carry, and what he found is that the people most prominently impacted positively through concealed carry laws were minorities in inner cities and older folks. And you don't hear people talking about that all too often, unfortunately. But the fact of the matter is, these are the folks who need it most, and they're being underserved in these communities. So I was right along those lines.
Yeah. Well, I need to let you go because I know you gotta get up early in the morning and be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, right? So,
yes, sir.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, Mike. If they want to know more about you, they can Google you. I know.
Yeah, glawpa.com. glawpa.com. That's my firm's website. And then gunlawseminar.com is where you can attend one of our gun law seminars.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and anytime you have something new to tell us, give us a holler, and we'll get you back on here. Just a great wealth of knowledge, man. We appreciate it.
The official attorney of God and Guns.
Hey, I love it. Hey, let's do it. Let's do it.
I don't know if we can afford that or not.
Well, I cut you a break tonight, right?
Cut me a break.
At least tell the listeners that.
Yeah, I heard you say pro bono like twice.
All right, man. We'll see you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mike.
You guys. God bless, guys.
Thanks. All right. Well, we really are glad. I am glad that Mike was able to join us tonight. Yeah, I kept telling him we need to have him on. He's like, I think he's like, yeah, you're never going to do it, but we're glad to have him on. Yeah, he's a great guy. Has a great testimony. If you ever get to meet Mike, he's got a great testimony about how he came to faith in Jesus through his grandmother. It is an awesome testimony. All right, so man, we zoomed through there. That's a long segment there.
It was.
How can you help out the show? You can help us out with Patreon. We had several people ask to be Patreon, ask for us how you can support us, and we set up a Patreon account, patreon.com/God and Guns. We have a bunch of great guys over there. One of them or two of them over, maybe three of them over there on the other side, watching, talking to us right now. So Tim Kim, John Odland, Doug Schultz, Steve Stone, Shannon Copeland, and Chuck Shettle. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Chuck. You need to let me know. You can also help us by buying some patches and stickers and gun mats, cleaning mats, all that stuff you can find at our godandguns.com, godandgunspodcast.com website. There's a link, and Facebook there's a link. So there's a link in our show notes, so you can find us there. And other ways you can help us out: join the NRA. You join the NRA, and it saves you $10 on the annual membership. I can't remember how much it is on life memberships and things like that, but they send us a little bit of love. Devore, DVOR. I just bought some other stuff over there. I got some more tactical, some True Spec pants and True Spec shirts and proper shirts and pants. They have some great deals over there. They're the clearinghouse for optics plants. A couple of you guys joined up this week. I appreciate that. It doesn't cost you anything. You just go over and use our link on our show notes. That's on our website, and you can sign up, see what kind of deals they have. If something you like, great. If you don't like it, you don't have to buy anything. Laser Activated Shot Reporter. John and the guys over at Laser Activated Shot Reporter have a cool dry fire practice where you use your webcam and your CERT pistol or laser activated device, and you can dry fire in the practice in your home, practice pulling out your holster and getting those drills down, pulling from concealment. Great opportunity. Use the coupon code GANDG, get 10% discount. Hoplite Armor affiliate we are, and if you click our link in our show notes, and you can they will send us some love if you guys want to buy some body armor. They've got all kinds of cool gizmos, gadgets, and shields and helmets, and level 3 and 4, and I don't know, all kinds of crazy stuff. Check it out at Hoplite Armor. Zija, I use Zija every day. Helps me stay moving and out of pain. And I use the deodorant. I use the toothpaste. Not toothpaste. The may have toothpaste. I don't know. I haven't checked that. They've got all kinds of products over there. Check it out. You go to guideandguns.myzj.com. Then you've got the next two.
Crossbreed holsters, Troy, I've told you before, we carry with the Super Tuck Deluxe the most comfortable holster you will ever wear. If you're uncomfortable carrying your weapon, you're not going to want to carry it. So carrying something that is a good, high quality. Go out to Crossbreed holsters. Check these guys out. They can fit you with any kind of holster that'll feel good for you for just about any kind of gun. They may make them for high points. I don't know. Probably do. But go check them out. Crossbreedholsters.com. Our buddies over there. We got a promo code for them now, right?
Yeah, it's GNG, and you get a discount. It doesn't work. We had some guys say they weren't getting a discount, but there was some kind of special running that was better than our discount. So
better than our discount.
So if there's a special running or there's some other kind of promo code, you can't stack them up or things like that. So, but if it's just a regular purchase, our coupon code gets you a good discount.
Good deal. Also, Axelson Tactical, our buddies over at Axelson, Jeff and his family, making high precision rifles, pistols, and they even have knives and other stuff. They got a really neat gun case. It's got a hard case with a soft case inside, and the soft case turns into a backpack with a gun holder in it. If you're out in the woods hiking, doing whatever you want, they are running. They have been running a big promo code the last couple weeks over there. It's a Second Amendment discounted day. So go check them out. I think it's actually AxelsonTactical.com will take you to it, but I think they're actually AxelsonUSA.com now. But go check those guys out, and if you find something you like, punch in our promo code God and Guns, and Jeff and crew will give you 10% off on your order by just knowing us.
Good deal. Interiors Alliance. We're an Interiors Alliance Life member and part of the Interiors Alliance media group. So if you would like to know more about Interiors Alliance, just Google it, Interiors Alliance or interiorsalliance.com, and you can find out all about military-owned companies. I mean, all kinds of different products, ammunition, a bunch of different ammunition companies over there, gun manufacturers, and just cool, just lots of cool guys and gals, and first responders, and just patriots over there. They are all vetted companies that are checked out and meet the approval of the Interiors Alliance board. And so check them out and see what's going on over there. NRA Armed Citizen, Doug, what we got?
NRA Armed Citizen tonight comes to us from Brownsville, Kentucky, up around your stomping area.
No Lynn Lake there.
It is. Concealed carry holder holds robbery suspect at gunpoint. This comes to us from WBKO. A Grayson County man is behind bars after allegedly breaking into a residence in Edmonson County. The Edmonson County Sheriff's Office says 20-year-old Robert Hunt was held at gunpoint by the homeowner until deputies arrived at the house on E.G. Nash Road. The homeowner was a concealed carry deadly weapons permit holder, according to sheriff's deputy, that say in situations like that, it's important to alert police to ensure everyone's safety. Once you call the police, if you're actually going to hold that suspect at gunpoint, you need to let the dispatch know. Go ahead and give the description of yourself so they know once they get to the scene who is the actual concealed carry holder and who is actually the suspect, said Deputy Jordan Jones of the Edmonson County Sheriff's Office. Hunt was taken to Hart County Jail. He faces, it's all stomping grounds, man. I know where all these places are. It's cool. He faces charges of robbery, second-degree theft, unlawfully taking of disposition firearm, and theft by unlawful taking or disposition all others under $500.
They are putting him in the old Hart County Jail underneath the sheriff's office down there where it floods all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the old LaRue County Jail. Every time it rained, they got wet.
Yeah.
You remember that one over there across from the library?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, up behind the old theater. Up near, what was that, Ray Castle? What was it, Leahy's?
Leahy's, yep.
Yeah.
Where it come down, the water come down the steps down there.
Yeah.
We got a question from one of our listeners. Yeah, over on our YouTube channel. He says, I'm about to turn 18 and I want a 12 gauge shotgun that I can use for hunting and also home defense. And it has to be under $200. What would you recommend?
Maverick is made by Mossberg.
Yes, it is.
They're about $200 and they come with I think you get like a 6-shot tube and 18 or 20-inch barrel.
Mm-hmm.
About right. That's a good one. I don't know. You might do some trading on like MeWe or somewhere. Of course, if you're in Florida or in Illinois, you're out of luck because you can't own guns at 18 anymore because you're not a citizen yet.
Yeah. So hopefully you're not there.
Hopefully, if you're in a state that allows you to have one, I would look at it because the Maverick is like the Mossberg 500, 12 gauge. And there was another one that was out. They looked like a pretty good gun. Stoker's got one, I think. If you're looking for a pump, home defense, you'd want a pump at that price. It's what you'd be looking for. Remington, if you can find a Remington, what's the model there, Doug? Help me. Remington
870.
870, yeah.
870 Express.
Yeah.
You can get those.
Stuff for it too.
I'm telling you, if you're looking for something nice for $200 or right around that area, if you listen to the show, you know Troy and I don't necessarily have to have a brand new gun. I go to pawn shops and I go to gun stores and stuff and look at used stuff. If you get to know your guys at your local pawn shops, you can go in there and people that pawn something for $50 or $60 just to get some quick cash, never come pick it up. They put it out for sale, and you can actually, if you get to know them kind of good, you can find out what they got in it, offer them a little bit more, and get some pretty good deals. I've picked up several nice things.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to hunt with it, you might want to try to find one that's got you can put different chokes in.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what you're hunting too. So I mean, if you
most of the new ones, most new guns anymore, Mossbergs, Remingtons, if you're looking for a pump shotgun, which is what I'm assuming you're looking for, if you're around $200, sometimes you can pick up a Beretta, not a Beretta, but a Benelli Nova, and it's a pump shotgun. Sometimes you can get them if you don't get the camouflage one. You get a black synthetic one. You can pick them up for $200, $250, somewhere around there, and they come with screw-in choke tubes, so you can bird hunt, rabbit hunt, whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, I picked up one for John, didn't I? We did a trade on one. So yeah, I got one for Gunner. His is black. It wasn't camouflage, but it was about $200. So, and they're great guns. They're real light though. So
They are. They
if
do
you're a
kick.
slight person, they're going to kick you. But if you're packing it in the field all day, you'll be glad until you shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
But you get you a good shoulder pad. Well,
Or just make sure you're a good shot and you only have to pull the trigger once.
yeah, aim small, miss small.
That's it.
Or practice a lot.
Hope that helps.
Yeah. Send your feedback to Troy at GotGunsPodcast.com.
Or Doug at GodandGunsPodcast.com.
Please tell your friends about us. Leave us an iTunes review. Please leave us an iTunes review. We got several we just caught up on. We appreciate it. And like us on Facebook. Seriously, like us on Facebook. Share us with your friends. It really helps get us out there. The more people that are signed up, it helps us a whole bunch. So we appreciate it. Facebook.com/GotGunsPodcast. Subscribe to us and follow us on YouTube. There's a link in our show notes because it's like 700 characters long.
Yeah.
They haven't given me a condensed one yet. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, and on YouTube, make sure that you click subscribe, then you click that you want notifications when there's a new video. That way you'll know when we post up a new one. And when we, like tonight, when we posted, we're going to be going live. It'll send you a notice as well. Follow us on Twitter at God and Guns Pod, and search for us on Instagram, and search for us on MeWe, and our website is GodandGunsPodcast.com. Oh, I fixed a bunch of problems over there. I found out there was a setting that was changed sometime or another that changed the I don't know what I'm talking about because it's technical, but it changed it from being an address on the address, the hyperlink,
on the link,
changed it from being a sequential custom number to a date number. And so it lost all the links to all those previously posted shows and all the other pages because it was in the wrong format. And I just sat there and worked on it like 2 days in a row, piddling with it, and found out that was what it was. Now, there's some old shows I'm gonna still have to go back in there and resequence the show numbers to match the whatever, but it works now.
Good deal.
So most of the things that I updated, some of the pages on there and all that stuff as well. So that's good. I think somebody will say, "Oh, it don't work," and that's what always happens after I say it works. I say, "It ain't working now." Good book I've read before. I'm going to be reading again. R.C. Sproul's "What Is Reformation Theology." It's a great book. If you guys have not read it, I recommend it. I was going to talk about that earlier and got caught up chasing dogs and stuff. Anything else, Doug?
I'm good, man.
All right. We appreciate y'all watching and listening with us.
Absolutely.
And, we look forward to getting to talk to you guys again next week. So until next time, Doug. Oh, wait a second. When's the USCCA Louisville event? Is that going to be before we get back together? No, that's going to be 2 weeks out.
Yep.
So 2 weeks out. So for that. So if you're going to be in the Louisville area and coming to that, we will post where we're going to be, when we're going to be closer to the show. But the Crossbreed guys know we're going to come and like nest in their place there. I already told them that we're just going to hang out and eat their food, drink their water bottles and stuff like that. So it's all good. So until next time, Doug, have a blessed week.
And keep your guns close, but keep your Bible closer.
Good night, guys. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Any more snide remarks? Oh, anyone new? Someone told you when you're starting to use guns. Use hearing protection, Mr. Black Nitro. Use hearing protection. I would, if you're going to shoot guns, because I'm getting where I can't hear my wife. Maybe that's a psychological thing instead of a hearing thing. But make sure you clean your guns really well after you use them, if you can, every single time. Buy good ammunition and spend some money. If you're hunting, especially if you're just going out and shooting cans and stuff, that's no big deal. If you're using it for defense, a shotgun for defense, $4, I would probably say is probably the best load. Has a good spread, and it's like 9. No, it's more than that. It's like 20. How many shots? It's
in number 4.
Yeah, it's like 21. Is it like?
Yeah, probably close to that.
21 30 caliber. I don't remember. It's been too long ago. Double aught buck is really heavy duty. It'll penetrate, over penetrate. You just got to be careful of the shotgun because the penetration will go through walls and hit people on the other side. And I would get training. Go and find a grandpa or somebody that shoots a lot. And if they don't know what they're doing, go find somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, find somebody else.
Yeah. If they don't know anything about guns, go find someone that knows something about guns and tell us where you're at. And we might have friends over there that could help teach you. But gun safety, 4 safety rules. You need to learn them and memorize them before you ever touch a gun, even if you're going to a gun store. Because I've seen people get shot at gun stores before with loaded guns and gun cases.
Yeah.
So make sure you know the 4 universal safety rules for guns. And you need a good place to store that. If it isn't with you, on you, or with you, it needs to be unloaded and it needs to be a trigger safe or something in there, or you need to have a safe to put it in. So like it wouldn't get stolen like Doug's pistol did, or it wouldn't get accessed by some younger person or some unexperienced person and accidentally shoot themselves. There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with owning guns. You're responsible for how they're left, how they're accessed. You're responsible for the safe handling of those. You don't load them inside the house where unless somebody's breaking your door down or something. But you don't practice loading guns inside of a house. You do that out at a range where it's safe and it's a dead range where there's nobody going down range, or
Right.
somewhere where there's not cows and dogs and stuff standing around. You want to be as safe, and the more you practice, the more safe you'll be if you keep following the 4 universal safety rules. And what else, Doug? You got a lot of experience.
You covered most of them. That's pretty good.
Know the gun laws in your town about where you can have your gun and what's considered brandishing. You might want to make sure you always have it in a case if you're transporting it, because if you have it laying in the back of your car, it's going to cause you problems. You want it in a case that looks nondescript and unloaded, depending on your state.
Yep.
Depending on your transportation laws, and don't go through Maryland
or New Jersey.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks. I subbed. What do you say?
I subbed. I'm not sure.
We don't read that. We don't understand. All right. Adios. We'll be back next week. God willing, the creeks don't rise. What am I doing? Where's my... Bye, guys.